Did you know there is a wrong way to start a speech? I am Dr. Shalonda Jones. I am a communication scholar and a public speaking coach. I specialize in helping professionals learn to transform their concerns with public speaking into confidence so they can share their valuable input in the workplace and get the respect they deserve as knowledgeable and credible professionals. If you are looking to improve your communication skills in the workplace, you're in the right place. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and like this video so that you can continue to get more content to help you unleash the power in your voice. In this current conversation, we will talk about 3 important reasons why starting your speech with, "Hello everyone, today I will discuss," is the wrong way to start your speech. I will also share 3 easy to use techniques that will empower you to feel confident that you can captivate your audience's attention from the first words you say, and that helps to keep them interested in the information you are sharing in your speech. So let's get started. Did you know you have less than 5 seconds to get your audience's attention and make them curious about the information you're going to share? Think about social media. When you're scrolling on social media, or when someone you know is scrolling on social media, typically it takes only a few seconds for that person to decide if they are going to consume the content on their feed. Well, it works the same way with public speaking. The first 5 seconds are the most important for a speech. In the first 5 seconds, the speaker has the important responsibility of doing 3 things. Number 1, setting the tone for the presentation. Is this a serious presentation? Is it lighthearted? Is it educational? Is it persuasive? Second, the speaker will let the listener know what's in the presentation for the listener. That's very important. The listener is subconsciously wanting to know from the first word a speaker says, what's in this presentation for me? What value will I get from sitting and listening to this person give information to me? Third, in most cases, listeners expect to hear a presenter say, "Hello, how are you? Today we will talk about." Instead, creating something called novelty. Novelty means new, doing something out of the ordinary. Novelty is important in the beginning of a presentation because consider this for a second. When you're home alone, you know how your house sounds. And if something falls in a room you're not in and you know you're home alone, whatever that sound was when something fell will grab your attention. You're accustomed to all of the other sounds. Everything else is functioning normally and according to your expectations in your home. But it's that one sound that's out of the ordinary that captivates your attention. Well, the same concept applies to the first 5 seconds of your presentation. When a speaker walks to the podium, the audience expects to hear them say, "Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to discuss." However, when a speaker implements novelty, something the audience doesn't expect to hear the speaker say, now they're captivating the audience's attention. So you might be wondering, how do I do this? What do you mean by something novel that sets the tone and helps the audience to know what they're going to get from my presentation as soon as I start talking? Let's now talk about 3 techniques that are easy to use that help to captivate your audience's attention, makes them aware in the first 5 seconds what you are going to offer them for listening to your presentation, and creates novelty. The first technique is to ask a thought-provoking question related to the main point of your speech. A thought-provoking question is sometimes called a rhetorical question. Here is the strategic way to implement a thought-provoking question into the start of your presentation. Number 1, the question absolutely must be related to the main point of your speech. Number 2, the question is a closed-ended question. That means it has either a yes, no, I don't know, or maybe response. You want the audience to think. That's why it's called thought-provoking. Number three, you're not necessarily looking for your audience to provide verbal feedback. You want them to wonder how will they get the response to this question during the presentation. If you go back to the beginning of this video, I used a thought-provoking question at the start of this video as an example. If you take the main point of your speech, whatever the goal of your speech is, the overall goal of your speech is, if you take that overall goal and turn it into a yes or no kind of question, you start with that specific question in the beginning of your presentation. Make that question the very first thing you say in your presentation. That will captivate your audience's attention. It'll make them curious about how they're going to get the information, and they know right away there will be information presented that is relevant to them. The second technique is to use a popular quote related to the main point of your speech. Here's an example of a popular quote that would be related to the main point of this conversation we are having now. First impressions are lasting impressions. And the reason why popular quotes work is because, number one, they help to establish common ground between the speaker and the audience. It creates a sense of familiarity that connects the audience and the speaker. Second, popular quotes help to connect unfamiliar information, the new information that's going to be shared in the presentation, with familiar information. Kind of like giving somebody an example so they can see how the concept you are introducing actually applies to their situation. Third, a popular quote helps to increase the chances people will remember the important points you made in your presentation. When you start your speech with a popular quote, make sure the popular quote is related to the main point of the speech. Also, make sure the popular quote is profanity free. Finally, pick a quote that is culturally relevant to the audience and the situation. A culturally relevant popular quote can come from a movie, a song, something you've read. The possibilities are endless. By picking a popular quote that is culturally relevant to the audience and the situation, it helps to minimize confusion and increase the chances of you building a solid connection with your audience and keeping them engaged while you're delivering your presentation. The third technique that is easy to use in the introduction of your presentation is to share startling statistics. Numbers can be very persuasive. They help to paint a verbal picture of the information you are going to share in your presentation. Here's an example of a startling statistic. On average, people who fear public speaking make 20% less in annual income than people who have the confidence to speak up at work. Startling statistics work because they help to establish your credibility as a speaker, which makes the audience trust you more. In other words, when you use startling statistics, it shows that you've done your research, and the audience is more likely to believe the information you are going to share. Second, startling statistics either makes people want to be a part of a good statistic or move away from a bad statistic. For example, most people would prefer to earn 20% more income than lose 20% income. That is why sharing a statistic like people who have anxiety about speaking up at work tend to earn 20% less in annual income is a good statistic to share. Most people prefer to earn more money. When you're using a startling statistic in the beginning of your presentation, make sure the statistic is related to the main point of your presentation. Also, make sure the statistic is within the past 5 to 10 years. 10 years is a little bit old, but 5 years is good information relevant to the current information you are sharing with your audience. You want recent information. Those are the 3 techniques that are easy to use as an introduction for your presentation. Now, just a couple of things about those 3 techniques. Number 1, pick one per speech. Do not overwhelm yourself trying to incorporate all 3 into one speech. Number 2, Keep your introduction brief. Your introduction should consume less than 10% of your overall speaking time in your presentation. Number 3, when you are making a decision which one of the techniques to use the one that is most comfortable for your personality and your speaking style. As I am wrapping this conversation up, I'd just like to remind you, we discussed why it is important to start with what's called an attention grabbing device. Attention grabbing devices will captivate your audience's attention, make them aware of the information that's relevant to them, and it creates novelty, something out of the ordinary. Second, I share with you 3 different techniques that are easy to use for your introduction. One of those techniques was to ask a thought-provoking question. The second technique was to use a popular quote. And the third technique was to share startling statistic. Finally, I provided 3 important guidelines for implementing an attention grabber into the introduction of your speech. Those 3 guidelines are: number 1, pick only one technique per speech. You'll overwhelm yourself if you try to use more than one. Number 2, make sure whichever technique you use, it is relevant to the main point of your speech. And number 3, keep your introduction brief. You want to pique your audience's curiosity, provide detail in the actual speech. Thank you very much for spending your valuable time with me as I shared these techniques to help you captivate your audience's attention from the first words you say in your presentation. Until we speak again, do something today and every day to help make your greatest ambition your greatest accomplishment. We'll speak soon.